Welcome to the Atlantic Mayoral Forum on KS 95.7 and live stream on westerniowatoday.com. The purpose of tonight's forum is to get to know the 4 candidates running for the open Atlantic mayoral seat with the election Tuesday, November 2nd. City Councilperson Grace Garrett, City Councilperson Pat McCurdy, City Councilperson Kathy Summers, and former Atlantic Mayor Tim Teig. Welcome to the Atlantic Mayoral Forum, moderated by Meredith Communications News Director Tom Robinson.
Four candidates running for the mayoral seat left open after Mayor Dave Jones chose not to seek a re-election for a 4th term in office. And all 4 candidates have city government experience. Pat McCurdy, to our far right, represents the 3rd Ward. And also the Kathy Summers is currently the 2nd Ward City Council person and Mayor Pro Tem. And Tim Teig, a former Atlantic mayor, joining us, and Grace Garrett to my immediate right represents one of the 2 city council at large seats. So welcome, folks, and thank you very much for coming. We're going to start off, and Mr. McCurdy, Pat, we'll start with you, and introduce yourself and give us some of your background.
Well, of course, I'm Pat McCurdy. I'm the 3rd Ward councilperson, and I'm a lifetime resident of Cass County. The only time I was away is when I was in the service, late 60s, early 70s. Farmed. My first career was farming. In 2003, my first wife's health was failing, so we switched gears, changed careers. We moved to Atlantic, and I started McCurdy Investments, which I kind of specialize in housing and investing in startup companies, mostly in Cass County. I'm heavily involved in economic development, past president of CADCO, currently on the CADCO board. Really, like, my thing is economic development. That's just been my thing my whole adult life. I love to take, well, especially like when we bought from Tim's family some ground out there and put boulders up, and it was taxed at like $300, and now it's taxed, we're paying $60,000 tax a year. They are, we've sold it since then. And it made employment, I just love that kind of stuff. And of course, housing, I'm very involved in that. I've just went off the Southwest Iowa Housing Trust Fund Board. My term was up, so I'm kind of familiar with a lot of programs they have. And I like to be involved. I just, I like, Atlantic's a great city. We got a great council, good mayor. It's just, I have a lot of fun here. I shouldn't say that at my age, but it's easy to have fun when you have a good community. So I'm looking forward to finish the campaign out and hopefully I become mayor.
Very good. Thank you very much, Pat. Kathy.
Well, I'm Kathy Summers, and I was born and raised here in Atlantic, Iowa. I grew up and then moved off to Philadelphia and Cincinnati, Ohio. And then when we had 2 children, we returned home to Atlantic, and we had to kind of struggle to find a job here. So one of my passions is to help people in the community learn or be able to find the jobs they want. And I worked at CADCO and learned a lot about economic development there and the struggle it is to bring businesses here. And now I work for A.M. Coron and Son as the EEO and safety and HR. I'm struggling because I don't know which camera to look at.
I guess I didn't look at the camera.
No, maybe I should look at your mom. Maybe if I find the focus point, then I will.
I think you're doing fine.
Now I work at A.M. Coron and Son, and I'm the HR, EEO, and safety coordinator, and I deal a lot with personnel issues, and so I've been the chairperson of the Personnel and Finance Committee, and that has, my career at A.M. Coron has helped me immensely with the Personnel and Finance Committee, and I've been on the city council now then for 12 years, and I've been mayor pro tem for 8 years. So I feel like I have quite a bit of experience to bring to the table as mayor, and I have some vision that I'd like to fulfill still, well, even though I'm not going to be on the city council as a city council member. Thank you.
Kathy, thank you. Tim Teig.
Good evening. I'm from Atlantic. Lived here all my life. Worked for a civil engineering firm when I graduated from Iowa State. Worked on projects throughout southwest and western Iowa with a lot of city governments with a variety of projects. And got married, have a child that's adult and lives in Des Moines, Chris. We started putt-putt golf, the miniature golf course, a long time ago. We were talking about that earlier. I did city council when I was 29. I actually had brown hair then. A lot of people don't know me with brown hair. But 2 years on city council and then 6 years as mayor. Learned a lot since that time. And I'm really back for the second time around because knowing what I know now, I think I can really make a big difference. And I'm anxious to put that together. So thanks for having us today.
Thank you very much, Tim. Grace Garrett.
Good evening. My name is Grace Garrett. I currently serve as City Council member at large. I'm with the Personnel and Finance. Kathy and I serve together, and Pat, and Planning and Zoning, and Beautification, and Chamber. I was born and raised in Detroit, Michigan, and I am one of 7 children. My parents also raised 5 of my cousins because both of their parents died in separate accidents. My dad was a minister, and my mom was a factory worker. I took my first public job at the age of 16 working at a bank in downtown Detroit. I moved to Louisville in 1976, and that is where I met my husband, Bill. And I put it this way, city girl meets farm boy, because my husband was born and raised in Kentucky and raised on a dairy farm. We've been married now for 43 years. We have 2 children and 4 grandchildren. I am a graduate of Pillsbury College and Seminary in Missouri, and my degree is in counseling, and I am a professionally trained listener. I am a high energy, focused individual, and I just work till the job is done. Bill started his career in Kentucky, which allowed us the opportunity to live in different states and size cities and towns with all types of different graphics. And we started in Kentucky, went to Ohio, from Ohio to Iowa the first time, then to North Carolina, back to Iowa, to the Des Moines, Urbandale area, and that was in 2009. And in 2009, I was working for a company on the East Coast in North Carolina, and when we moved back, I stayed on remote with that company until 2016. And that was, working remote was just coming to the forefront of the business sector. My business experience has been in the administration side of the healthcare industry, corporate America, and nonprofits and small business. The areas of focus have many facets to it, which leads to human resources and teaching, training, managing people. So all of that is an accumulative of my experience. In 2017, we moved to Atlantic. I started attending city council meetings at that time and getting to know Atlantic. And in 2019, I ran for my current seat, and that's where we are today. All my experiences are an asset to becoming the mayor of Atlantic. Thank you.
Thank you, Grace. So, and I think a couple of you answered the question a little bit, Grace, too, but I want to go, why are you running for mayor? And what makes you unique? And why do you think you're the best person for the job? Kathy, we'll start with you.
You may have to remind me of some of those questions. Well, the reason I'm running for mayor is because I still have a vision for Atlantic, and with the experience that I have, I understand how to make goals happen. And it's a community effort. It's not just one person. It's not even just the council members. It's the community as a whole. But I do understand that, and I'm familiar with quite a few of the different players and entities in the community that can help make things happen. And could you remind me of some of those other questions?
Well, what makes you unique?
Well, I'm unique because I have understood the struggle to find a job that fits my skill set, and for my husband to find a job that fits his skill set, so we can relate to wanting to be here in Atlantic and doing whatever it took in order to be able to live here. A big thing for me is letting families stay together, and I don't want to see any more of our young people leave town than the ones, everybody wants to leave town kind of, but if our young people want to come back to Atlantic, I want us to have a place for them to come and work, and I want us to have the housing that they would like to live in, not just something they have to settle in. I'd like to have nice housing if that's what they want, and if they want an old home, I'd like to see us have quality old homes for them to be in, and I'd like us to have some recreation that they could do, and it's a wonderful community. We have a great, safe community, and I'd like us to keep it that way, and I'm sure we will because we have a great police department. But basically, I have a vision, and I still want to make it happen. So.
Good, Kathy, thank you. Tim, while you're running, I think you talked about that a little bit. There's some things you want to see done, and you were mayor once before. What makes you unique from maybe the other candidates here, and why do you think you're the best person for the job?
Well, probably the one up I have is I've done the job before. I know what it takes. And I hear comments about, well, I can run the meetings, and you know, I know these people and I know these people, but this mayor's job, to be effective, is much bigger than that. Previously, I commented about actually flying to Canada to meet with the Skyjack owner, negotiated the purchase of their building here at Atlantic when it was empty, and worked with my connections with Plastic Professionals to make that happen. So Plastic Professionals expanded from Adair to Atlantic. I actually was instrumental in creating jobs. And I don't know if anybody else can make that claim. And I didn't do it on my own, but I can tell you it was because of my connections, and I was instrumental in achieving it. Before that, when Skyjack moved here, I was one of the guys that met with Ken Tolton and Gerhard Marburg, and told Gerhard that it never snows in Atlantic. He'll love it here. And, you know, they're from Canada. Well, he never lets me forget that I stretch the truth on that a little bit. But, you know, you develop relationships with these people, and when you know the community like I do, having been with the engineering, I know the water system. You know, people ask me, well, why is Harlan and these other towns rationing water? Why isn't Atlantic? Because I know what the aquifer we're in. I know what's been done at our water plant. Same thing with the wastewater. The airport, there probably isn't anybody more knowledgeable in the airport operations. I know funding because of my career. I've worked with USDA, FAA, DOT. I know their programs. I know how to leverage dollars. So, you know, there's a lot of things that I afforded with my career, that opportunity, and worked in all of these communities the size of Atlantic, you know, the Clarindas, the Red Oaks, the Shenandoahs, and saw what worked, what didn't work, you know, worked with those folks, city councils, went to all their council meetings. So yeah, I'm a little bit unique over other people just because of the opportunities I've been afforded over the last, hate to say it, 40 years. So,
Tim, thank you very much. Grace Garrett, again, why you're running, and what makes you unique, and why do you think you're the best person for the job?
I will say I am not afraid to step out and try something new. Now, that may come with living throughout the United States and those experiences, but I want to build upon what is here with Atlantic's foundation. We have a great foundation here. And I will say this. My goal from the very beginning of coming to the community has been to bring a positive attitude and a servant spirit everywhere I have been in this community and elsewhere as a representative of Atlantic. With my degree in counseling, this would be the third thing, with my degree in counseling, you listen to the story or the issue, you set together a plan, and then you put that plan in place to bring about the best end result for everyone involved. With these 3 points, all of them are key to being a good mayor and being able to work alongside others. We need to keep our vision forward so that in 10 to 20 years, Atlantic will continue to thrive. I want to build on what is here. I want to try new things, which I'm not afraid of, and I think all of that will be an asset to our community. Thank you.
Tim, what do you think the mayor's role should be? And you've been in that seat. What do you think it should be?
There's a lot of, and from my experience, and I'm sure it hasn't changed much, there is a lot of folks that have issues with their neighbors. You almost become a counselor for the community because you try to resolve issues. And that's a big part of it. And it's very important to the folks that live here, whether it's the neighbor's dog barking or the local law enforcement has their son in jail. I've had parents on my step at 2 in the morning, you know, complaining about the police department having their son in jail. You know, far be it that he did something wrong, but you still have to, open your doors to these people at all hours, and you have to listen and you have to resolve. And, you know, that's one part of it on the local level, but the potential to make a difference is just unbelievable because of what I've experienced. You know, you can run for a state legislature position, but you're one of all these people and you don't really make individually that much difference. But what I found was in a smaller community, one person can make a big difference. You're representing your community and you have the opportunity to work with other individuals you may or may not know. It's just a huge potential. And it's much more than just running a meeting. And it's much more than having a vision. You have to know where you're going. And you have to have a plan. And you have to know how to implement that plan. You can't wait for others to say, well, maybe we should do this, and I don't know how we're going to be able to afford it, but maybe you can come up with something. I mean, that's been my whole profession is whether it was the streetscape in Dundee and Omaha and working with the city of Omaha people to make that happen and conducting public meetings and steering through it. You know, beautification's on everybody's list. I've done the streetscape in Lakeview, Walnut, Audubon, you know, on and on. Did the plans, figured out how to pay for it, and implemented it.
Very good, Tim. Pat, we'll go back to you.
Yes.
And let's talk about why you're running.
Well, I'm running. Like everybody else, I do have a vision for Atlantic. I'm very highly invested in this community, and I want to see it thrive. I feel with my background in business, economic development, housing, I have several connections with different builders. I feel I could be a real asset on, that's a big issue is housing, affordable housing. What is affordable housing? I feel I could really be an asset that way. And like Tim said, sure, part of it's running the meeting. I mean, I've run a lot of meetings. I've been president of several organizations. That's not the whole thing. That's part of it, you know. And I feel I'm a pretty good consensus builder because I've been on several different boards, got people together, you got some big egos in the room, a couple boards, really big egos, and try to get everybody on the same page, whatever our mission is, to go for it and make it happen. So that's kind of, I feel I'd be very good at that.
Grace, let's talk about what do you think the mayor's role should be in a community?
The mayor's role is to represent the people. That's exactly what the mayor's role is. The mayor's role is to be a good example of the town that they represent. And that's what I have tried to do since I've been here, not as the mayor, as a resident, and now as a city council person. But we, as the mayor and council, are elected by the constituents, and we serve them, or should serve them. We work for the people. That's why we were put here in these elected roles, and the mayor is to represent the community and do our very best to do that and to move our community forward. and I will represent the people well of the community because I have listened to the constituents since the very beginning. I ran on that in 2019, and I will continue to run on that to be a good listener to the constituents, because it's not about my agenda. It's about vision, because vision, in fact, is creating plans and setting goals and objectives, making decisions, and coordinating and evaluating the work of any project. An agenda is already what you think of when it's something is set in place. And I'm not saying we don't need an agenda, because we all have an agenda. When we usually come to meetings, we're prepared for that. But to go into the mayorship with an agenda, that should be vision, not agenda. We should be listening to the constituents. Are there things I'd like to see happen? Absolutely. Absolutely, unequivocally, and I have a list of them. But to go in and represent the people well, that's what the mayor needs to do.
Thank you. Pat, what do you think the role of the mayor should be?
Well, I think naturally the leader of the community, and it's great. You do have to listen to the people, you know, but I found you need to be the leader.
Yes.
When I was president of the C&M School Board, I said, boy, I'm just going to do exactly what people want me to do. That lasted about 2 months, because you get 20,000 different opinions which direction whatever you're doing is going. But you should lead the community, do what's best for the people of the community, and show your leadership skills. And I feel I have that.
Very good, Pat. Thank you. Kathy?
Well, I believe the mayor needs to take the leadership role and, first of all, listen. Like everyone else said, that's obvious, but really listen. Give the people who have a complaint or a concern an opportunity to actually express their full and complete concern. And then going forward, most of the time, a lot of the concerns that I have heard over the past 12 years have been issues that really the city cannot control. It's out of their control. There's laws that they're beyond the city ordinances, they're state, they're federal, whatever the circumstances may be. So often the city can't do a whole lot. We just recently had one of those where the city administrator explained why the city can't do anything about the complaint that we heard. So, but it is the role of the mayor, though, to decide how to handle that and how to go about leading the city through the issue. And it's important that the mayor actually take the time to listen, like I already said, but then to make wise decisions on how the best way going forward would be, what the best way going forward would be. Yeah, that's about it.
You bet. Kathy, thank you. Grace, we'll start with you on this question. What is your vision to help lead the growth of the city in the next 4 years, during a 4-year term?
Okay. My vision is what I have heard as the number one from the constituents, and that is that we need to clean our town up. Now, I have said all along that I want to showcase Atlantic to be a great place to live, play, and work. And along with that piece would be to clean up what needs to be cleaned up. If we have ordinances that need to be updated to today, we need to do that. If there are ordinances that are working, let's make sure we're adhering to them. Housing on every level is always a big concern, and that's being addressed actually right now with the Housing Committee. And we actually have a survey online right now that we're asking the public to participate in, the community. Child care, we know, is a big issue, a very large concern for the city of Atlantic. There is a grant available right now that I'm happy to say is $1,000 to help a registered provider to get started with. And the Y has also recently updated some space to accommodate 25 spots at Ann Wickman. So I'm really happy about that. These are really all concerns of the community, but concerns of mine. And then expanding Sunnyside while supporting the YMCA, because we all want something in our community, so we need to support that as well. Business helping business. We've also hired Retail Coach recently, and there's kind of a part 1 and part 2 to that. They're running data right now, maps of people leaving town and going shopping. I know it sounds scary because it's all done by our phones, but hopefully with that we'll have some information coming down the pike within the next week from Retail Coach. And lastly, one of the big thrusts that I would like to see happen is shared workspace. This is a newer concept to the forefront, but it is showing great success for other towns and communities that have put this in place. And it draws a lot of business because we understand and know emphatically right now that individuals are coming to our town and they are using our coffee shops, they are using our library, and they are using our parking lot to work remote. And so this is all part of shared workspace, and it is just a big working circle because out of that it brings other business, while people that have very good paying jobs, and especially in the tech field, can move to smaller communities and have the best of both worlds, keep their jobs and come to a smaller community. So that's really that is really one of the thrusts that I would like to see our town move forward on. And there will be more information on that, I'm sure, coming down the pike, but the information that I've acquired so far has been very positive. It would be a very positive thing for Atlantic, and it would just be advantageous in multiple ways.
Please, thank you.
Thank
Pat,
you.
what is your vision to help lead the growth of the city over a 4-year
Well, my
term?
vision is kind of an overview. I want Atlantic, which it is already, but I want it to be the safest, the cleanest, the user-friendliest, welcoming community that you could have in Southwest Iowa and the whole state. And we need retained people. I think our biggest problem is our declining population. We have to turn the tide some way. And how do we do that? We have to be very welcoming for all individuals. But then you need jobs, and then you need housing, and it goes on, but we can address those things. So we got so many great things in this community. You know, you start with a hospital, a school, the Y, the parks, the rec, you know, we just got, and the downtown. And we got so many great things. Atlantic's a great community. And it's always, you know, the slogan was, Atlantic's a hub of Southwest Iowa. Well, let's make it a bigger hub. And that's my vision moving ahead.
Very good. Kathy, same question. What is your vision to lead the city over a 4-year term as mayor?
All right, well, the first thing is I'm the chairperson of the new housing committee, so we're going to finish the research up for that here at the end of December, and then starting January, February, March, we're going to start making some decisions as a group and as a community about how to go forward. So, of course, I have my own personal opinion, but one person, mayor or not, is not going to make the final decision on that. So I don't want to really share a whole bunch of ideas, but if you give me plenty of time, I'm happy to. Then the next thing is we need to find ways to help our students, our graduates from high school, find jobs here locally. We have all kinds of jobs that are available, and they are entry-level jobs, and they can lead to good careers. So we don't have to send our students off to college for 4 years. They don't have to go in debt $80,000. They can get a job right out of high school. They could be making easily anywhere between $10 and $20 an hour, depending on the type of work they do. And they can be ahead of any college graduate in 4 years financially. So we need to start connecting our young people with these jobs, and I have all kinds of ideas on that. Again, I would waste more than my 2-minute time allotment on that. So otherwise, what else was your question?
Basically, that is
Okay.
the question, yeah. And we'll go to Tim. Again, what's your vision to lead the growth of this city?
I don't have visions. I know what needs to be done, believe it or not. I have to be careful here. I don't want to step on anybody's toes, but you know, it's always the politicians that say, yeah, I've been doing this for the past few years, but if I get reelected, I'm going to do this, this, and this. And I want to say, why didn't you take all those things on before, when you were already there? You know, it's time to make a difference. It's time to stand up. You know, I had policemen tell me that back in the day, the police department went out and talked to people about junk cars and trash in the yards. And now I understand the police department doesn't do that because no one's having them do it. I mean, they didn't like doing it. They hated doing it. But somebody needs to have the leadership role and say, listen, this town used to be known for the cleanest town around, and it's not anymore. And things have changed over the years. and not for the better. Our declining population, it can't keep going this direction. I alluded to a plan I want to try to work through where we get the mayors from all the smaller communities together and we go to the state and say, listen, you know, Des Moines, you can clout your 16%, whatever percent increase in population and all the businesses, but at whose expense? You know, it's small town Iowa's expense. All our kids are leaving home and going to the cities for the jobs. And if we can do a program where puts us on a more level playing field with the larger cities by enhanced either tax abatements or tax credits for business and industry that would move to a smaller community, and couple it with financing for infrastructure that might be needed if they can't handle that business or industry, it's just time for action. It's no more, we're gonna study this and we're gonna see about that. You know, we've gotta make it a change. Our housing is talked about for years.
And we'll get to that question in a moment.
Okay.
Save
Because
that
I
question.
have
Yeah.
plenty to say about that.
That's definitely something I'm going to bring up. You brought up, several of you brought up the cleaning up the city, and that was a question from the public. And Pat, we'll start with you. How would you address cleaning up some of these cities' properties? You think this is an issue, and obviously
It's a huge issue. I'm very disappointed in a lot of citizens in Atlantic. Take some pride. I mean, this junk in the yard and trash and stuff. I can see if you're on a fixed income and you can't fix your house up to the top shape, maybe we could come up with some program to help you. But if you got trash in the yard or a junk car in the yard, come on, you know. And I do disagree a little with Tim, because I do think now the police are addressing the cars in the yard. Chris Eriks is working tirelessly with the junk. It's just, come on, people, take some pride in this community. It's a wonderful community. And like Tim said, it was the cleanest town in the whole state. Now we've gone back. Let's get more like, I shouldn't say this, more like Elkhorn and Walnuts, you know, take some pride. So I would try to set by example and enforce some of this, you know. Let's clean this town up.
Kathy, how would you address cleaning up the city?
So during my, I don't want to waste too much of this time, but Tim did bring up some things, and I feel I can't just let them slide. I have a list of accomplishments. When I first got on the council, I was involved in creating the TIF policy and the tax abatement policy and all those, and when those were my goal at the time. So I have had goals each term, and each one of those goals has been achieved, but you know, you can only do so much. Okay, so on to the beautification. I was also involved in getting this beautification system going, the abatement, and getting involved with creating the part-time job. I didn't create the original part-time job, but we were involved with Chris getting appointed to her position and making that decision on the Personnel and Finance Committee and going forward. And we've got ordinances that are currently in place that she works within. And there's things we could do to enhance those ordinances and to make them even more challenging. We could look at, and I'm not saying this to offend, but you know, the rental properties, possibly inspections and things like that. But again, that's something that I would lead as mayor, but not dictate. I would work with the landlords and things like that on that. If there's too much opposition, you know, it's something that we would have to work through. And I know there's a lot of opposition. So I'm not saying we would do it, but I would say
You can.
Go ahead.
I'm just saying it might be something that this housing committee is also going to look at. And maybe we don't do it, maybe we do. I don't know.
Pat, go
Okay,
ahead.
as a landlord, drive around Atlantic, most of the dilapidated properties are not rentals. They're owner occupied. I am totally in favor of a rental inspection complaint driven. As far as a unified rental inspection, no. The landlord has a lot of expenses as it is. Myself personally, of course, I think it's because of the amount of apartments in my main complex. I'm heavily regulated already. And if you take Hall, it has to be clean. Okay, you got an apartment. It's got bugs in it. Okay, they're gonna come in and say, the landlord did that? No, the tenant did that, you know. And that's, I would be for, because as far, you know, on the outside, we have a minimum maintenance for everybody. That should apply to everybody. But a landlord should be more responsible. You should be responsible for the safety of your tenants. You should have good wiring, you know, you should have heat. And I would definitely be favor for a complaint driven, but not an overall rental inspection.
We're good.
Right.
Thanks for letting me answer.
We'll give you all extra time as well, but I appreciate the rebuttal there.
Sorry.
Tim,
I didn't mean
you brought
to
up something
offend you.
about cleaning up the city. How would you do this? And
Well, I think it's and I'm going back to the day when we had issues, because this is like dogs, it goes on for eternity. And we had a gentleman that, you know, we gave him citations. I say we as a city back when I was mayor, and he just didn't have the ability to do anything about it. So I got with the Boy Scouts. Mm-hmm. And I met the Boy Scouts down there, and they donated their time, and we cleaned that place up. And it was not a pleasant, he was a trapper, so there was carcasses and all kinds of stuff, and, you know, the rats and everything. But it was a solution to that problem, and it was case by case. Unfortunately, there's a lot of people that own property that have the wherewithal to clean it up, but just choose not to. And there's no excuse for those folks, you know, for whatever reason. So we're just not going to allow it. And, you know, if you have to make example of people, then you make example of people. And I get that one person's junk is another one's treasure, but again, it's a case-by-case thing, but I think we've got to get aggressive. And I think we got to set a tone that if you're going to own property in this community, you're going to hold to a certain standard. And if you're not, we'll put pressure as a city, whatever means we have. If that means getting some groups together that want to donate their time and efforts to clean up. But it's vehicles that are not registered. I've driven up the alleys, I've seen them. And these vehicles have not moved for decades. Mm-hmm. And there's no excuse for that. Broken windows, weeds. You know, we've got an ordinance for grass height in this community. Yeah. There's just been so much neglected that needs to get taken care of. And people are saying, why didn't anybody do anything about it? And I don't know, because I'm not on there. But if I am on there, there'll be a change.
Tim, thank you. Grace, the same question for you is how would you address cleaning up some of the city's properties?
Well, actually, when I said just a few minutes ago about our ordinances, if we have ordinances that are in place, we must adhere to them. It's for everyone in the community. It doesn't just apply to a certain few, it's for everyone. If the ordinances are not working, then we need to work on them and we need to enforce them. Evidently, if we're not enforcing them, I will repeat what a senator said recently in a speech that he gave, and he said, what we allow will continue, and that's what we're going to continue to get is what we allow here in the city. That being said, recently I also spoke to someone and they are willing to help put together a program that will help the neighbors that need the actual help. Not those that are able-bodied that are just letting their property go and be neglectful, but those that truly need help, because we have people in our town that don't have the pickup trucks. They don't have family in town. They need help, even to the point of telling me they would pay for someone to come with a pickup truck and help them take care of their property. If we have violations and if we have fees attached, if those fees aren't a hard enough consequence, then we need to look at that. Because if we're going out and mowing someone's grass and they keep letting us mow it and they just keep paying the fee, there's something wrong there. And so we have to address all of those things. But actually, I think a neighbor helping neighbor program, which I have already thought about and hope to put in place as mayor, but also the ordinances and enforcing them.
Very good, thank you. Tim, you mentioned housing, and I promised you we'd come back. I cut you off a little bit. I promised you'd come back to that. And a question from the public as well is we need affordable housing. We need housing. Kathy, we'll start with you. How would you address this?
So thanks to this housing committee that I'm on, well, first of all, let me back up. I have been in favor of the city putting houses on lots also own, because what's happening is we used to have houses there, and when those are torn down, then there's not the tax income coming in from those properties. So we need houses on those empty lots. And I know that people don't want to buy a brand new house in an old neighborhood or put a new house on an old neighborhood. So we need to begin looking creatively at some options there. And the housing committee that I'm a part of has a lot of really good ideas. So that's something that, again, we'll be looking at closely. We also need to look into some new development space, and we're going to have to, the city's going to need to step up on that, because nobody has the bonding capacity that the city has as a private developer to put the streets in and the infrastructure. So the city's going to have to be ready to step up to the plate in order to help make that happen.
Kathy, I'm going to let you go back, and we would just skip off there for just a bit. We're back on. I want to give you a chance to go back and reply again, please.
To the whole question,
yes,
the whole thing?
Right ahead.
Oh, sure.
We got it. Make sure we get it.
Well, I said something. I hope I can say it better the second time.
You can remember
So
it.
the two areas that I see us tackling the housing project process is the infill housing, the empty lots the city owns, and maybe the empty lots that some private individuals own. We need to get houses on those empty lots. They aren't making the city any money, and they're a burden to the city's finances because city employees are having to care for them, mow the lawn, scoop the snow, and they're just not making the city any money. Which means that the income that the city needs is there's more pressure on everyone with houses to pay more taxes because the empty lots aren't contributing. So we need to look at creative ways to put affordable housing in those areas. I know a lot of people don't want to put a brand new home in an old neighborhood, or don't want to pay for a brand new home in an old neighborhood. So there's some interesting and creative ideas that this housing committee has come up with. They haven't actually come up with the ideas yet, but they've been learning about. And so we might be looking at some of those. We need to get those lots filled. The second thing is we need new development areas of town, and so the city's going to need to step up to the plate there financially, and that again is still a process that we're going to be working through.
Thank you very much. I apologize for that.
That's okay.
Tim, how would you do this?
Do the housing thing?
Yeah. And we're talking about affordable housing and really housing in general too.
You know, affordable housing's, it's a great thing, affordable housing, but it's an animal to make it happen because the housing costs per square foot are off the charts. I think, to me, the answer is we have a lot of people that are in existing homes that are thinking about, I don't want to mow the acre and a half anymore. I don't want to push the snow on the drive. But I'm not ready to give up the square footage and a single family dwelling concept. So what if we build more of a community living residences? Like they do in the cities, but they cram them in. They're individually owned, anywhere from 1,500 to 2,000 square feet. Slab on grade, no steps. Put a bonus room above the garage if you've got family coming in. You own the home. You're responsible for its entirety. You've got green space around you, but yet you don't have to take care of the mowing. You don't have to take care of the snow removal. You know people that are in the community, the residential community that I talk of. If you're going south for a couple of months, if you're that fortunate to be able to do, you've got folks live across the street next door, keep an eye on things for you, water your plants, whatever. And all that sounds good for the rich and the famous. But what it does is this huge domino effect, because those 20 families move from their existing home into all this new tax revenue on the tax rolls at higher end, producing a lot of tax base, their houses go up for sale. So that family that's been looking for a little bit nicer home, a little more square footage, they can move up. And the house they move out of, those first-time homeowners can qualify for in existing housing stock. And you don't have to worry about trying to build a $100,000 house for $180,000, because you can't do it. I mean, it's just, but there is other ways to make affordable housing available, but it's through the progression. And that takes landowners that are willing to let their land go for that. And so you have to know these landowners within the city limits to start working with those folks to make that happen. And I know the city expended funds to draw up layouts for every available property. I have a copy of it because I was involved in it. But there was nobody talking to landowners about, hey, we drew this up, what do you think? Well, you know, it all has to happen together. It all has to be seamless. And again, you have to know the people. You have to truly understand TIF, because, again, this is 2 minutes, I'm probably up.
Go ahead.
It's a TIF, and for all the developers, if you're going to put in the streets of water in the sewer and grade it all for walkout basements or slab on grade, and then expect that you're going to go to your local banker and say, hey, I need to borrow $3 million for I don't know how long, because contractors don't work like they used to. They don't seem to get as much done. No offense to the
We do bring
yeah. So it's a lot of risk for these so-called developers, and that's where the TIF has always been, for the most part, been a backside thing, so that your taxes, when you build the houses and they come on the tax rolls and the taxes start coming in, then they get rebated back. But it's not enough anymore. It's too much risk for the developer. So you've got to have some cash infusion up front,
Tim,
and to make it happen.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Grace, same question to you, Grace Garrett, is, we need affordable housing. That's a question for the public.
Yes.
And how would you address this?
Well, I think we need not only low to moderate, we need every type of housing for our community, because we are drawing different levels of income to our community. And with that, I do understand what Tim just said, but I also know that we as a city, we are going to have to do some of our part in order to make these lots available with the infrastructure needed so that people can go in there and build the houses if they have the resources to do it. I also understand that we have a Plex community here in town over off of Redwood, and that in of itself could be a model of what we could put in our town, not just for low to moderate income, but even for young adults, singles or married. And if I'm not mistaken, there's about 20 units in that Plex living, and I have been in there personally. I've looked at them for a family member. I've been in that neighborhood several times and lived very close to there. That is a possibility, but I do believe that we do need more than just low to moderate income housing, because we do have others coming to town that are able to purchase and or build a home. And so we need to be able to offer that as well. And if there's infrastructure that needs to be done, then we're going to have to step up and help move some things forward.
Okay, Grace, thank you.
Thank you.
Pat, talk about
Yes.
housing.
Well, that's my passion, housing. Keeps you happy. Like Tim, I think, said, affordable housing is a misnomer. I mean, there isn't such a thing right now. I've been working with a couple of different entities. I want to see the fill-in housing. Of course, the city owns like 10 lots, and there's another 90 fill-in, but it's so hard for the fill-in housing. And, you know, some people say we ought to go with the modular home. Well, most of these places have modular home won't work. If you want on slab, you gotta have, you know, like a 4-foot crawl space is nothing else. It needs to be stick-built. But I would definitely, as far as the new development, that is a real challenge, because you actually do not get that much tax from a house. But to fill in where we have the infrastructure, like on Olive Street there's 12 lots there, you know, and this one entity is very interested in that, if they could get some kind of TIF. You know, and our program is anything over $1 million, we'll TIF it. You know, I am very in favor of enhanced TIF, tax abatement, anything like that. And as far as the low-income housing, about the only way that ever happens if it's government subsidized for, you know, like an apartment building or something. It's very hard to make this work, but we need more housing. It's just a given, you know, and how do we go about it? And like with Tim, I know all the landowners on the edge of town. We're very fortunate. We're very fortunate. To start with, we've had 12 new houses built in this town in the last 4 years. There's hardly any town in this community, in this area, that's had 12 new houses built unless it was subsidized, and these weren't. These are more upscale houses. So we're very fortunate. Trouble is, we're running out of lots for these people to build on. You know, and one individual is thinking about doing a more upscale development, but like where I live, it took 20 years to fill that. You know, what developer is gonna wait 20 years to get return on his money? So it's a real challenge, but I feel I'm the person to address that challenge.
Yeah, thank you very
bet.
much. We'll start with Tim on this question. How would you keep property taxes in check without falling behind in infrastructure needs such as city streets, that type of thing?
Property taxes are a concern. You know, I keep hearing, and I read it in the 22 budget for the city of Atlantic, how the tax askings are slightly lower. But why is everybody's tax payment going up? Well, it's a pretty easy answer, because things are valued by our county assessor, supposedly, by that group. I'm not sure if it's somebody in Des Moines doing it. You know, it's kind of hard to understand, but all I know is everybody get notices that the value on their property is going up. And when you get your tax statement, what you pay is going up, because even though the city and the county is asking for the same levy, the value of your property's gone up, so you pay more. And if you have commercial property, hang on to your hat, because there's not this big rollback that you get on residential property.
How would you keep it in check?
Well, here's one example. I worked with 2 communities in southwest Iowa that wanted to do a street project. And I said, you know what? Why don't you communities go together? You do your street work, but you bid it together under one contract. It's 2 divisions of work. You keep track of what costs what, where. But you get the value of that scale of a large project. So we could go in with, you know, Elkhorn does concrete paving every year or every other year. Harlan does work. Red Oak does a lot of work. Why don't we team up with them? Communities do 28 agreements every day. And you could do that with a large-scale street project and save the taxpayers a boatload of money because of the value of the scale of the project. It's not that hard to do. Why didn't anybody else think of it? I don't know. But we did it, and they saved big money in Clarinda by doing that.
Clarinda and Red Oak, I believe, went together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Clarinda and Red Oak.
Yeah.
And that was a discussion with the city manager about doing that, and it worked. Atlantic could do the same thing. Why doesn't Atlantic know about that? I don't know, maybe because I'm not mayor, but if I was mayor, Atlantic would be definitely doing that and saving taxpayers money. And that goes on and on. There's all kinds of shared services that could be done for 2080 agreements.
Tim, thank you very
Yep.
much. Grace, how would you keep property tax in check, but keep up the infrastructure?
Well, I will say that when we moved to town, we were so impressed with our roads that are here, the care, everything that is provided to this town within this tax base. Now, can you continue that on with the increase? Probably not. And I do say that we can do some other joint endeavors. But I will say for this community and for what we have been able to do in Atlantic, what Atlantic has done, when Bill and I moved here and we saw how the roads were maintained and how the community was taken care of with our taxes, and then what our taxes were, and we've lived in some smaller communities as well as larger cities, but I will tell you, knowing what we get for our taxes, we were pretty impressed to think that Atlantic can do what they do with what they have to work with. And so with that, I would say, number one, it's called preventative maintenance. You have to be able to look ahead and see what it is that you can take care of ahead of time before something does break, something totally goes to pot, so to speak, with the roads. And so I do agree that we have things we can do with joint efforts, but also in our community right now with property taxes, I would never promise anything, but I would say I think Atlantic does well with what they have.
Grace, thank you very much. Pat?
Yes, that's a bug on everybody's, is property taxes. We're in the top fourth in our peer group, and we're 16 mills. Most communities our size are on 14 mills. And as far as our services, we're doing great, and I don't think there's a lot you can cut there. So how do you keep it reasonable? You know, we got a lot of people on fixed incomes, and like I said, I think Tim said that, you know, yeah, the mill rate didn't go up, but then they raised the value of the property, and then your tax goes up. We need more structures. We need more tax base. Whether it is houses, of course, I just got done saying a house doesn't generate that much tax revenue because you only pay 50-some%, you know, and it's 16 mills. But commercial properties, if we could have some more commercial properties built, it would be huge because their tax is 90%. And what incentives could we afford to have to do that? But we definitely need to keep our property taxes in check. Where I'm in economic development, we've had different people come to town. And one first thing they say, well, you know, like your utilities are really reasonable. Outside, of course, they always complain about the sewer. But, of course, our electricity is very reasonable. But your property taxes are too high. So that is a problem. So that would be my, hopefully, solution is to build more taxable property.
Kathy, how would you keep property taxes in check without falling behind in infrastructure?
Well, first of all, the general fund is already maxed out. We can't do anything more with that. It's at the highest rate. And so I've known for years that the solution is more property, more taxable property, more houses, more businesses, all those things. Where we have a little flexibility is our local option sales tax fund, which means we need more local option sales so we can get more taxes from that. And that's where we have the flexibility to do the fun things that we all want to do in our community. So if we keep on buying things, and now even online, Amazon and all those online places, they are now having to pay local option sales tax too. But if we can keep our sales going up, that will help. If we can get more properties built that are taxable, that will help. And one time, a number of years ago now, while I was on the city council, we had a discussion in the Personnel and Finance Committee meeting. We were talking about the tax rate, and I specifically said at that meeting, I don't want it to ever go higher than the year that was the high point, probably around 2011, maybe 12, 10, something around in there. And so that has kind of been the cap, and we have not gone above that again since that time. And there was another occasion where I said, let's let the county and the hospital and the school, some of them may have some needs that they're gonna need to increase their taxes for, so let's make sure that we don't do the same thing the same year. Let's try and steady this out so that our residents are paying similar tax to what they're used to and not being stuck with a bigger tax than what they expected. So those are just a few of the things that I think we can do and continue to do.
Kathy, thank you. So that kind of leads us to the question of, and this is also a question from the public, is how would you bring new business to the community? Grace, we'll start with you on this one.
Well, as I said earlier, we have hired Retail Coach, and it's a joint endeavor between the city, the chamber, and CADCO. And with that, this particular company will, first of all, they have the contacts for companies that are looking to invest in towns of certain sizes. So that right there in of itself is a starting point for bringing business here. And that also in of itself will help us expand our current businesses, and I'll give you an example. This current Retail Coach is working with the city of Carroll, Fort Dodge, and Pella right now, and Carroll has had 3 companies commit to going to Carroll. Along with that, the second piece of Retail Coach is they will also help current businesses expand by presenting to them data as well. And also in Carroll, there was a company who took this data and applied it to their company, their retail store, and their sales increased, if I am not mistaken, by 75%. And they also expanded their actual building by adding another building. So we already have a very good resource in place to help us do that. Along with that, this shared workspace is a cycle to help bring other businesses here. There again, it goes back to what I said earlier, that I want to showcase Atlantic as a great place to work. Whether it's a job that's already here or whether we need to bring a company here. And I'm all about going out and talking to people. I do not have a problem with that at all. And to showcase our town for them to be able to come here to work and bring their businesses here.
Grace, thank you. Pat?
Thank you.
Yes, Grace hit on a couple things I was going to say. Retail Coach, I hopefully will be a real asset. My big thing with them, and why I was so in favor of it, is out at our shopping mall where Salvation Army was. We have that big
Yes.
building sitting empty.
Yes.
Where maybe 2 or 3 or 4 different individuals could have a business in there. Hopefully that something happens there. And of course, what we have to do is showcase our town. You know, we got the best hospital in Southwest Iowa.
Yes.
We got the best school. You know, we got the recreation, nice downtown. Shouldn't say this, we have Walmart, but we have a lot of things in this town. And as far as getting a huge factory, no, that's probably this day and age not going to happen. And do we want an employer that employs 500 people and is here for 5 years and then goes to Mexico? You know, I would like to enhance what we already have. You know, like Elkhorn Plastic out there, and Mala, and AM Coron, which they do a great job with all the employees that he's got. If we get more people to come to town and work for those, that's the easy solution. But to get new is very hard. I've worked on this for several years, and it's very hard to get somebody to locate here. You're more apt to get an individual. You know, we're kind of in between Omaha and Des Moines, which is good and bad, but they could live here, and in this day and age, they could do from their home, you know, most of the time, maybe go into Omaha, Des Moines once a week, you know, and get that kind of employment. And usually they're younger, have a family, be in our school. It all adds to it. So that's kind of where I'm at.
Kathy?
Could you repeat the question?
Yes. How would you bring business or enhance business in this community?
Well, when I worked at CADCO, we put lots of proposals together for Iowa workforce development, and they at that time were focused on the city of Newton because Newton had just lost all their Maytag company. And so we missed out on a nice big project that would bring the wind turbines, great big factory, to our area. And now I heard they're going to be losing some like 800 of those jobs again. So my experience through CADCO, the time I worked there, is we cannot rely on the state to be of any help to us. We're going to have to do this on our own. And the people who bring jobs I worked at CADCO again, I keep saying that. But we brought Scranton Manufacturing to town. We brought other businesses to town. And when it didn't suit them to stay here, they left. So what we need are homegrown people with businesses that they want to keep here in Atlantic. And there's a few of those that have done this. They people who left and then they came back and brought their business back. And I'd like to see more of that happen, and we need to actively promote our community to those individuals who have businesses. Also, we have some home-based businesses that could really grow if they just had a little, maybe guidance, a little financial help, maybe some building offerings available to them, things like that. So basically, I want to work with our local people, whether they're currently here or if they have left and they might be willing to come back. But we need some ties to Atlantic that are willing to stick. And it's going to take us doing it ourselves to make it happen.
Kathy, and also we'll have closing statements, so if you have anything to add on something that was brought up, they'll give you an opportunity to do that.
Great.
Tim, talk about how would you bring new business to this community?
Well, the shared workspace concept, I think that term got rebranded. It used to be called incubators back in my day, and they used to have them in a lot of communities where you had shared workspace, had a receptionist that worked for all of them, but they called them incubators, not shared workspace. So it got rebranded, and it was probably some company out of the big city that came up with a new rebranded name. But all of the experience that I've had with communities that were successful in growing did it on their own. You know, there's nobody that can sell a community better than the people that live here, that work here, that started their business here. I mean, when I started Snyder and Associates, I mean, no one asked me to start an office in Atlantic, you know. I didn't want to drive to work anymore, so we started a business here and grew it, and it was very successful. It did really well, and it's still doing well. You just have to have, and you know, I go back to CADCO. You know, I was instrumental in starting CADCO. I had minutes from a meeting when I first invited the mayors from the other towns before CADCO even was started. I mean, that was an idea I put back. I was the first president of CADCO back in the day. Bree Kleinfelder was in my office because we needed to share office space to save money, you know. But, you know, an economic development director is great at helping put brochures together and sending out and making contacts, but the people that sell the community are the people that live here, that know the community, that can share their stories with these perspectives. Again, like we did with Skyjack and Plastic Professionals and firms like that. And I don't think any hired guns from out of town are gonna, you know, you can use Carroll as an example. Carroll's Carroll. They got nobody close to them. They got no Omaha or Des Moines within an hour's drive. And, you know, they're a strong community that has history and, you know, I don't know what their population now is. I know it's over 10,000. You know, if I was going to try to do startups in a community, I'd pick Carroll because I think my success rate would be pretty good there. Atlantic's going to be a challenge. And if you can find people that'll bring names to you, that's great, but, you know, your community has to sell it. You know, we had, I'm thinking you look back, we had discussions with people at convenience stores, because there's people that came in and started asking about the community. And we would be talking to the people that worked at convenience stores, say, listen, anybody asks about your community, you make sure you keep it positive. Don't talk about, you know, the guy next door, that whatever. You need to keep it positive because you never know who's looking at your community. And that's what they do. They go to your just people every day working their jobs, and they're asking questions. And that's, you know, it's a whole town has to sell for business.
Grace, how would you bring
Well, I answered the question, but I do have a comment regarding that. I have already been in contact with a local business owner that has been here for years. And this business owner has ideas on how to grow business. And so I have already started that process with this business owner for us to sell Atlantic.
So we gave Grace some extra time. Pat, you have anything to add to this? And Kathy?
It's all good, you know, but we have to, like we're all saying, I do think this retail coach will help us. I really think it. I wouldn't have voted to spend that kind of money, but we have to sell ourselves. And that's just, you know, we have to work hard. We got to get down to the dirt if we have to, but we can't depend on the state to do it, you know. And we got a good organization with CADCO. The chamber's very good, but we have the whole community is willing to step up. I mean, sadly, say a lot of people just want to do their job, go home, and they don't want to be involved. But we got a lot of great people that are involved, not just in the government side of our city, the working community,
Yes.
you know, that want to help, want this town to grow. So I'm very proud of Atlantic, and I think we can make it work.
Kathy, anything else to add to this?
Not on this topic.
Yeah, everybody, okay.
No.
Let's move on. Again, we, go ahead.
One
You-
little quick
yeah.
thing is, we passed our time. The whole other equation is this capable workforce, and I say capable, not just the $10 an hour, because quite frankly, nobody can live on $10 an hour, and those days are over. But we have to work with the schools, and I know they are trying to try to make some programs so they can start changing the whole culture of young folks to become capable, responsible workforce people. But I think this is so important to the city that we got to partner with the school, and we got to be active in that. And I mean, we can't wait, because it's not going the right direction. And we've got to get capable workforce if we ever want to think we can attract any business, let alone keep the business that we have. That's where I'm going with that.
Tim, thank you. And we appreciate all your time, and we still have a couple of questions here we'd like to get to. What are the pressing issues that need to be addressed at the current time for the city? We probably talked about that a little bit, but if you want to refine that some, start with Grace.
Pressing issues of the city
That need to be addressed.
that need to be addressed. I think all in all, we just need to make Atlantic the best town it can possibly be, whatever it takes. And like Pat said, if we have to get dirty, then we just have to get dirty, and we have to do some scrubbing and cleaning and getting our town ready to be the best it can be. And whatever that looks like, then we need to be willing to do it, and we have to try something new and go for it.
Grace, thank you. Pat, what are the
I go
pressing
back
issues? you see?
to losing population. We can't let that continue. We have to do whatever we can. Like Tim just alluded to, if we can keep some of these people here rather than going off to college they don't need to, that we can have in a workforce, they're trained well, whatever the city needs to program with the school, partner with the school, we need to do that.
Very good. Kathy, what are the pressing issues you see at the current time for the city of Atlantic?
Right now, our workforce is the most pressing issue because some of our businesses are having to close early, and some of our businesses can't get the help they need, and it's a very real problem. And so we're going to have to work with the school. I've already been involved in that with the building trades program they have going on, and but it's beyond that because we need more than just one high school graduating class worth of people working. And so we're going to have to really hunker down and figure out a solution that's going to work with the people who are not currently working. We have to find out what it is that it takes to get them back in the workforce. And maybe we do need to be expanding and growing and bringing more people here. But it's a very real problem, and we'd have to take a look at that.
Tim, what are the current pressing issues?
I think it's the job creation, the housing, being concerned about property taxes, and capable workforce. Those are the pressing. All the other stuff is a constant battle. You know, whether it's cleaning up or, you know, any of those other issues, but the main focus has got to be those 4 items.
One more question, then we'll let each of you wrap things up here for the evening. Again, we thank you for all your time. As a mayor, and we'll start with Pat, how would you use your position, city staff and community leader, to progressively move forward? So how would you use your position as mayor?
Well, I wouldn't call it a No, I won't say that. I almost said something I shouldn't have said. Well, I like everything. I have always been a leader. I've been in several leadership positions, and I pride myself in helping the community by showing my leadership. You know, we got a great staff. We got great street department, police, fire, so everything. We got a good staff. We just need to continue to show leadership and show them that we care for them and retain those people. But I feel my leadership skills would be a real asset to Lang.
Very good. Kathy, as a mayor, how would you use your position with your city and staff and community leader to progressively move forward?
Well, I would like to work with all the different entities in town that have a key role in making things happen. I would like to work with the Ministerial Association to help some of the different people who are in need of assistance. And I would like to work with the school again to create a career fair day where we connect the high school juniors and seniors with actual jobs and help them to find jobs. And then I'd also like to listen very well to people in the community and what they want and what they need, and then present their needs in the proper manner to actually get something done to fix them. So not just hear them and not just say, we'll get to that. Let's put it on, send that topic to a committee, let the committee hash it out and bring it back to the council and let the council decide and move forward that way.
Kathy, thank you. Tim, as mayor, how would you use your position, city and staff, and community leaders to progressively move forward?
Primarily, I would be a leader. I would provide leadership. I think that's something the community has been missing. I've watched a couple of council meetings, I've been to one, and it's evident there needs to be leadership. You know, I gotta watch, I'm not critical, but you know, how many times do you talk about the fireworks? Why doesn't that get resolved? And why does it take time after time? And then when it does get resolved, wasn't handled properly. It needs leadership, and that's one of the things I can bring to it. The other thing I do, I would review every existing structure right now in the city the way it is. I'd look at community promotion. Is it functioning as it was intended to? Is it meaningful? Is it spending money wisely? CADCO, chamber, I would look at it all. And I'm not saying I'd throw it all under the bus, but somebody needs to look at it and say, hey, is this working? Are we spending money where we really are most effective? I go back to meeting with the mayors of Southwest Iowa, and I'd get that coalition together. That'd be one of the first things I'd do, and I'd be marching into the state, and I'd talk to the chairman of the Committee on Economic Development. I would say, listen, it's enough about Des Moines, Cedar Rapids, and the other big cities. We've got to keep Iowa strong, and you do that by keeping all of your communities strong. So that would be one of the first things I would do. But all of these things are about action, not about talk, not about, trying to make everybody happy. It's recognizing what needs to be done and getting it done. And I think people in this community, the people I talk to, are ready for that kind of change.
Tim, thank you for that. And Grace, will go to you as mayor. How would you use your position as mayor and your city, staff, and community leaders to progressively move forward?
Okay. First of all, I think communication is a very big piece. And a lot of times it's in the presentation of how you can work with people and work together and do it well. I will lead and also serve alongside, because I'm not afraid, nor will I ask anyone to do anything that I would not do myself. I am not afraid of hard work, and if it means coming alongside someone, I'm willing to do it, but I'm willing to lead, and I'm not afraid to make a decision. I will speak when I need to speak, but I will listen well. We have to give everyone the tools that they need to do their jobs well. So you can't just go into a situation and you look at it and you say, why isn't this being done? You have to say, tell me why this isn't being done and what are the tools you need. If you don't know what is required of you, then evidently we haven't set a very good target. Because when you have a target, you know what to hit. So saying all of that, working with the entities, working with the county, be a support, but in reality, communicate with all the departments and do it well and work well together. And a lot of people can't do that. A lot of people cannot bring people together and work well together. You have to be a leader and a team player, and that's what I intend to do.
Very good. Grace, thank you very much. Well, final comments, and again, we thank you for joining us here. We thank folks for viewing and tuning in on 95.7 FM as well. So we'll start with Kathy.
No.
And
I just had a hunch that was coming.
or we can flip a coin, whatever you want to do. Again, thank you. Great job, all of you. And final comments, Kathy.
Okay, which camera am I supposed to look at? All right, thank you.
Hey, been looking at the camera.
All right. Well, I'm born and raised here, and I have a whole lot of background and experience in the different things that the city needs to be involved in order to make things happen. And I'm all about making things happen. Each term I was on the council, I made sure that I had some goals in mind when I chose to run, and those goals were achieved. One of them took all 3 terms to get achieved, and that was the new city logo. And I'm very happy with that new logo, and I'm glad that it got done. But that was something I was already complaining about clear back in 2006. So it took a very long time, but we got it done. I was involved in the TIF policy. I was involved in the tax abatement policy, and I've been involved in all kinds of different things over the last 12 years. So I understand how those work. I understand that it's all about Atlantic getting things done ourselves. We cannot rely on anyone else. And we need to dream big, and then we need to decide how we're going to handle getting it done, because it's not just going to be the mayor that decides, because there are 7 city council members and they each have a vote. And the mayor doesn't even get one of those votes. So it's going to require good leadership. And I have a track record of doing good leadership with working with other groups. And how much time do I have? Am I out?
You're doing fine.
Okay, all right.
We'll give you 30 more seconds.
Okay, all right. I have a good track record of leading the committees that I have been appointed into leadership positions on, and working with them and hearing all the opinions and then coming to a good solution. So I've got that track record in place, and I think that I would be an excellent candidate for mayor, and so I'll just quit there.
Kathy, thank you very much. Final comments, Tim Teig.
I'm not sure if I should take offense to that about changing the City of Atlantic logo.
I know.
You know, that was one of the first things I did when I was mayor at 31. And I did it with a contest. I had all these people, anybody entered in. And, you know, I got that logo done in like 3 months. Maybe it's evident because it's not that great, but it was somebody, you know, it was done by local people that drew it up, and that's what it went with. But we didn't take 12 years to come up with it. We did it in 3 months, but and then it was on all the vehicles in the whole city. So I don't know if I should take offense to that.
Well, you know, it's all about more than one person getting it done. So I had to get a few more people involved.
Well, yeah, well, you weren't mayor then, so.
I know, right. Might have been done in a day if I'd have been mayor.
Yeah, we're down to logos.
I say people want to know what your platform is, and I'm not sure it's a platform, but I'm all about action and change. I'm not about dreams, but I'm about plans that can and will be implemented. Our community and our county-wide population is going the wrong direction and has been for a number of years, and nobody's doing anything about it. Everybody's just sitting idly by and talking about it, but not really doing much. And it's time for some things to change. And, you know, I got no guarantees. I just know when I was mayor before, I made some things happen. And I was just a kid. And with brown hair, not white. And I have knowledge now. You know, maybe not all of it's useful, but as mayor, I can and I will affect change, and it'll be positive change for the community. And things that have gone on for the last whatever number of years can't simply be said. We're looking into it. We're studying this. We've got people looking at that. We got this committee been talking about it. I mean, how many years does that go on? I mean, it's time to make a change, and that's why I'm here. I'm ready to make a change.
Tim, thank you very much. Grace, your final comments.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you, Atlantic, for attending this forum, and I'd like to thank our host this evening. Thank you so much. I am Grace Garrett, seeking your vote as your new mayor on November 2nd. As your current city council member, I have been listening to you, and I will continue to listen to you as your mayor. As mayor, I will bring my commitment, my energy, my determined focus, and my skill sets to the table to help Atlantic grow and flourish, and I will showcase Atlantic as a great place to work, to play, and to call home. As mayor, I will lead and I will help accomplish our new community vision and achievable goals. Working together with the community, now that's vision forward. Thank you in advance for your support and your vote on November 2nd. As your mayor, I would be honored to lead our town of Atlantic in the next season of growth. I am Grace Garrett, your candidate for mayor. And yes, I'm the one with the green yard signs.
Grace, thank you. Pat, final comments.
am.
Pat McCurdy.
Well, I obviously the right person for mayor. I'm the oldest one here, so I got the most experience. No, I feel I would be the best candidate for mayor because of what I'm involved in. Where I'm a business owner in Atlantic, heavily involved in economic development, housing, which these are all part of the puzzle. It's a puzzle is a lot of pieces. We have a lot of pieces put together, but I feel we got a great future ahead, irregardless who becomes mayor. Hopefully it's me, but we got some really good candidates. And whoever is mayor, hopefully it's me, I will work with whoever. But I feel I'm the best person with my leadership skills of all the positions I've held as a leader, past and present, and I would help make Atlantic go forward. The population thing, if nothing else, we gotta slow it down. We cannot continue to lose people. I have some visions on how to address that. So please vote for Pat McCurdy, November 2nd.
Very good. Pat, Kathy, Tim. Grace, thank you very much.
Thank
Again,
you,
Pat
Tom.
McCurdy, Kathy Summers, Tim Teig, and Grace Garrett joining us here on 95.7 FM and WesternIowaToday.com. Great job, and thank you for all your time. We
Wasn't
appreciate
all
it.
BS.
Great question. Great question.
It's still in the air.
Great question.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And thank you for joining us tonight on WesternIowaToday.com, on our live video stream, and on 95.7 FM. Good night from Atlantic.